What's going on, guys? Welcome to the No Excuses Podcast, episode 17. Today, guys, I have the honor to co-host with my boy Tarun. Guys, this guy is my student, one of my blue belts. Also, he's the guy behind the scenes, the videographer here. And man, I'm looking forward to have a great conversation with him. Today's subject is going to be about transparency. Guys, this subject is something that's very deep, and I feel like it's the key to having a successful life and a meaningful life. So here we are.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, brother, transparency, man. This is something huge. I feel like that most people are not transparent. I feel like we're always putting on a front to be somebody that we're not.
Yeah.
And basically, like, ever since you're a kid, you're hiding all your flaws. Like, you're not telling your true story because you're almost scared of how people are gonna react. That if they found out, like your dirty story, the story that's not as perfect as we expect it to be.
The skeletons in the closet.
Skeletons in the closet, but. Right. What I think people don't realize is that the most beautiful stories of life are the ones that are not perfect. The ones that have the ups and downs, the ones that have all the different difficulties and obstacles that these people have to overcome. And actually, like the scars that they have is what makes their life interesting and beautiful.
Yeah. Something I want to know, cause something about you that is always interesting is like, it's like every week, this new type of topic or thing catches your interest, and it's usually related to life in general and everything. And you do a really good job of relating these topics back to us, like in your teaching and stuff. But right now, what is it that has you thinking about transparency? Like, how did this come to you?
So, man, like, you hit it right on the nose. Like, every week when I give a talk, once or twice a week when I give you guys a talk, it's coming from something that I'm going through or something that I'm helping somebody with, that they're going through, something that's been brought to my attention. And this subject comes out just in my mind, without any planning, that I need to talk about it, because I've always felt that if I'm feeling something, others are always feeling it. I also felt like if I'm going through something, or Joe Schmo is going through something, somebody else in the class or in the world or on social media is also going through it. And I can use my insight and my knowledge to share the wisdom about this specific subject. So you are right. Transparency has been a lot on my mind. Truly, the last few weeks, man, of my life, man, been a little bit rough. And, guys, like, everybody sees me, man, and they're like, man, like, Sensei has the perfect life, and the thing is I do have a pretty good life because I made it that way. But it doesn't mean I don't have ups and downs. It doesn't mean that it's always smooth. As a matter of fact, a lot of times it's not smooth. Like, just being a father to 5 children, and dealing with 5 different individuals, their ups and downs, their personalities, their current situations of growing up and developing, that already creates all kinds of turbulence. And then, you throw in the wife. You got a wife of 20 years, and, and that, it's a whole nother full-time job, man, like being married, being a father, then running the business, like doing the right things. Like right now, man, I'm about to start like a 5th business, bro. Like, I'm always like working on something, to like, like to push forward. So the word transparency comes out in every one of those subjects. And as I was telling you, like, things have been a little bit rough, and they were rough because something personal was going on in my life, and I had to be transparent with people that I love. And by being transparent, like, if I love you and I tell you something, and it might hurt your feelings, but the truth will set you free. And the truth is not easy to swallow. It's not easy to take in, but it's something that's necessary. And if we don't bring up the truth and we keep hiding, we're not transparent with our partners, with our children, with our business, with our families, whatever it is that you have going on in your life, you're not transparent, you're not being real, then you're hurting two people. You're hurting the person that you're not being transparent with, and you're hurting yourself. Because let's just say something is bothering me that you're doing, and I just keep it to myself. Well, every time I'm around you, you keep doing that, whatever it is, my anger, my disappointment, my upsetness, whatever it is going to level up. And it's going to keep creeping up to where it comes to a point where you're like one day like, hey, I want a divorce. Hey, I don't want to see you here anymore. Hey, we're done. Right? And these things happen because the person is not transparent. So now you're torturing yourself daily dealing with this person because you won't tell them what's bothering you or where you stand in your life. And then on the other hand, that person, he or she doesn't know that they're hurting you. And then all of a sudden you break off with them or explode on them, and now you hurt them really bad. So being transparent is imperative, something that's non-negotiable in my life. And I've lost a lot of people, man. I lost a lot of people being truthful with them. Like, hey, man, you're doing drugs, you're drinking, you're cheating, you're this, you're that, and calling people out by being real. You know, you're not giving your best effort. You're doing half-ass. Whatever it might be, you know, it's something that's very hard for people to swallow. So for me, you know, in the last really been going on for like the last month, but the last 2 weeks was extra rough, is that, you know, again, I had to be transparent with some really close people, and I got my ass kicked. I got my ass kicked, man, like emotionally and mentally, I got my ass kicked. And I'm a pretty strong guy and pretty resilient, but, you know, it hurt, man, it hurt, and I ended up hurting other people. Again, not out of anger or out of hate or out of wanting to, just by being honest and transparent. But I knew by me doing so will actually level up our relationship, will level up our friendship, will level up who we really need to be for each other to prosper.
I think something that's interesting. So you're talking about transparency, but you're also using the word truth. Do you think those two are the same thing, or like, can you be transparent without truthful, or vice versa?
Possible. Possible. You can't. You cannot be transparent and then tell a lie, because then you're not transparent, contradicting yourself. So, you know, it's like, it's imperative to tell the truth. But remember, when you tell the truth, it's going to come with a consequence. So here's the deal. Most humans, I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 human beings, when you tell them something that they don't want to hear, like, hey, husband, you're not satisfying me. Hey, wife, you're slacking here or there. You know, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. Something that doesn't align with the beliefs that they had about you, or about you guys, or about your children, or about your business, whatever. You're having to sit down with your business partner. They can take it two ways. And I would say 8 or 9 out of 10, the person you're dealing with is going to take it the wrong way. They're going to take it in a way like you're trying to hurt them, or how could you? Why would you? I can't believe you. All those comments are going to come out of them. And then anger and resentment and all these different things, the emotions will come out of them that will cause friction between the person you're transparent with. But if that 1 out of 10 person, or maybe 2 out of 10, you're lucky, they'll be like, oh, wow, I'm hurt. I can't believe this. But let me listen to what this person is saying to me. so I can take notes and not take it personal, but see how I can work on myself or on our situation or on my business or on my attitude or on my whatever to 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 elevate the situation, to make amends, to make things right, you know? Because it's easy to just say, well, you feel this way? Fine. Let's go our own way. Easy. It's hard to say, oh, wow, I'm slacking here, 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 here. I'm not doing my job here and here and here. Then I'm going to do something about it. Very hard to do. You know, it's like extreme ownership, which is very difficult. You know, most people always want to point the finger everywhere else besides themselves.
So, like, when you describe a relationship that is transparent, truthful, and like any kind of relationship, like romantic, friends, whatever, you kind of are describing it as it's difficult every time you have to be transparent. But do you think there's ways that you can like start like relationships with people with that kind of transparency, so that when the hard truth comes out, it's not a shock or it's not a surprise? Like, why is it so difficult, in that regard? That every time you meet somebody, when it comes time to be the truth, is always a shock.
So, so now we're going into a different, avenue of being transparent. So when you meet somebody, in general, again, you try to hide all your flaws. You want to look as best as possible because you want to close that business deal, because you want to hook up with this person, you want to get to know them. You don't want to show them your bad side because you don't want to turn them off.
Doesn't benefit you.
You don't want to turn off the customer. You don't want to turn off the business deal. You don't want to turn off your friend. So you just put on this front of something that you're not. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think being able to be real from the beginning. I'm not saying like I meet you today and I got to tell you every bad story that I had, day one. But if this is going to be a serious friendship or a business deal or whatever, like here, like in jiu-jitsu at my club, like I love not having AC here, right? Like, hey man, we're not selling you on some foo-foo dust.
Yeah.
You're not going to go to some like McDojo. You're not going to go to a place where I'm just going to give you a belt. You're not going to go to a place like, I can't tell you how many places, man, like they'll get the students and then they'll hit them up with all kinds of fees. Oh, you cannot roll until this, you can't do this, you can't do that. Where me, I'm just real from the front. And the people who come in, and I smash them. But not out of anger, but out of love. Show them what they're really getting into. And then saying, hey man, you want to get into this?
You know what? I've actually noticed that. So like, in doing jujitsu, there's days where we're training harder than normal. There's trades, like it's a frequency, it's not going to be the exact same thing every day. But I've noticed the days where it's always the hardest is the day that somebody's there brand new, their first time in the dojo, and you throw in that extra round or you throw in those extra exercises, and I really like that because it's almost like upfront you're showing them, yes, this is how hard, you're setting the expectation, like, yeah, this is the minimum amount of difficulty that you can expect. We have no AC. We go for 2.5 hours. Like, this is what it is. And it's like, I've seen people that are like completely out of shape or like older and stuff. They all get the same work, and
everybody gets the same treatment.
Yeah, they all get the same treatment. Right. And from a business perspective, you would think you wouldn't want to do that, but to see it in practice, like, I know for me, like when I first started, I was grateful to see what this was from the get-go. Like I felt like, oh man, this is too much for me. But I feel like if this is where I'm starting, this is the minimum. Oh man, I can get so much from this thing. So it's interesting to see, the way that the word transparency can manifest itself in the way you run your business, not just in how you talk to people face to face, but like, the way you introduce your business to them or the way you interact with them, beyond just.
So, like, it's not just the way I teach, but you see, like, when I give my talks, how many times you've seen tears in my eyes, right? Many, many times. And it's like, you can't fake this shit. It comes from the heart. whenever you were willing to expose yourself with tears, with telling people your stories, that I was in jail, that I was in gangs, that I had almost a divorce, all these different hardships that I share with random people that I barely really know, you know, like, you unlock people's hearts. People look at you like, oh, wow, he's an exceptional human being because look how open he is with us. Look how real he is with us. And I feel like that's my superpower, is that I'm not afraid to show, and I won't even call it my dark side, to show my past, to show my downfalls. You know, like, the other day, you know, like I was doing a little story on Instagram, and I was talking about, you know, like how there's some men that are not even able to take care of themselves, and you know, like that's why women, you know, they're looking elsewhere and so on and so on. And then I even said, I was like, I feel so powerful that not that I could just take care of myself and my family, right, and my children, but I was joking around and said I could feel I could take care of a second family. You know what I mean? So my wife got on me with it, and she goes, "Why would you say that?" I said, because it's the fucking truth. I'm not lying, but if you continue hearing the story that says, I choose not to. I choose to be with one woman. I choose to stay faithful. But let's not get it twisted, what I can and cannot do. You know, and I feel like, I think you've heard like, what's the guy's? Peterson, Jordan Peterson. He always talks about, you know, like, a man who's not dangerous is not, no, a man who's not capable of violence is not like, he doesn't have any virtue. Doesn't have any virtue. You know, but a man who's capable of violence, he's able to control himself, that's a man of virtue. That's a man who has self-control. That's the man you want to be around. So it's like, I tell people all the time, like, when people tell me, like, hey, you know, I'm faithful. I'm like, are you faithful by fucking default? There's no one. Right, you know what I mean? Like, because you have no fucking choice. You know, like, this is being transparent, like calling people's bullshit out. You know, and then, like, until they can be truthful with themselves, they can never be truthful with anyone else. You know, like, I've had so many hardships in my life, man, like, in every aspect, from financial to, like, trouble with the law, trouble in school, poverty, you know, fights, gangs, organized crime, women, you know, heartaches, and other crazy shit that, like, you could make a whole movie out of. And you say to yourself, well, how come he's not depressed? How come he's not suicidal? How come he's not on anxiety medication? The reason I'm not on any of that shit, because I don't hide it. I don't be like, I gotta hide my scars. You know what I mean? So then when you hide everything, when you keep everything, when you're not transparent, even with yourself, or even with your people that are close to you, what happens is that it eats at you inside. You know what I mean? Because there's no expression, there's no talking about it. But when you talk about it to people, when you're honest, well, now you realize that, like, everyone has their problems and everyone has their issues, and you know what? And fucking normal. You know, like, people expect to have these perfect lives and to be these perfect people, but, like, nobody's perfect. You know what I mean? I think the only way you can get close to being perfect is by falling down over and over and over again, getting up, learning the lesson from falling down, and then being transparent about it. And eventually, you get to a state where you're like a really high vibration, where you're just like, you understand about life, you understand the right and wrong things to do, and it doesn't mean you don't have any bad thoughts. You know, like, I love my wife. Been with her for 20 years. But if I see a beautiful woman, I can't lie to you and be like, oh, no, I don't look. I look. You know what I mean? I look. I don't look to disrespect her. I don't look because I want to cheat. I look because subconsciously, I just look. You know what I mean? And I can appreciate a beautiful woman. but I have the ability and the discipline and self-control to stop it. Stop going to the next level. So again, being transparent, not acting like you're some fake motherfucker. Like the conversations I have with my guys, like, do you jerk off? Do you cheat on your wife? Do you drink? Do you this? Do you that? Like, I ask them really, really deep questions, and it's like they look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm gonna tell them straight up, like, I'm looking for the right answer. I'm looking for the real answer. Because if I can't find out who you really are, I can't coach you. I cannot coach you and I cannot direct you on the path that you need to be going. If you say, Yaniv, my marriage is great. My marriage is great. But I can tell it's not great. You just keep saying it's great. Your marriage is never going to get better. Like, if you're always lying to yourself and then you start lying to others, no one can help you. Somebody who's suicidal and they're in a bad place, all the time you see them and they're smiling, hey, John, how are you? How can you help them? You don't know. They're not transparent. So let's just say the guy comes up to you and says, hey, well, you know what? He opens up to you and says, hey, you know what? I got molested when I was a kid, and it haunts me. So you know what I tell the motherfucker? I'm like, you think you're the only motherfucker who's ever been molested? Plenty of motherfuckers been molested. Not everybody's suicidal. Like, oh man, I'm getting, like you're going through like a divorce, or like you're going through a really hard time with your spouse. You keep it inside. You always act like everything is fine, but inside it's killing you. You don't even go home. Instead of going home, you sleep in your car. You sleep at hotels, right? You keep that inside. Well, guess what? You're not transparent. No one can help you. No one can guide you. No one can be there for you to help you. You can't even vent because you're embarrassed of your situation. And my question to you is, do you think you're the only one who's going through a divorce or going through a fight with their spouse? You know what I mean? All these homes that you see that look like they're happy, majority of them are not. You don't have to listen to me. Is 55% of marriages go to divorce these days. Out of that 45% that's left, how many stay together just because by default? Hey, we're going to stay together because the kids. We're going to stay together because we're our finances. We're going to stay together because both of us are cowards and we don't have any guts to either fix it or unfix it. Right? So we'll just stay together. So this is what I'm talking about, transparency. It's not just, like being real when there's a problem, but just like understanding that like you're a human being. And once you accept that you're a human being and that you're not perfect, you'll be a lot more transparent.
Do you think it's possible to be too transparent? Like you gave an example earlier of like, okay, if you see a good-looking woman, you're gonna look, right? But if every time you had, that's almost like just an impulse thing. Like you're not thinking about it, right? But you could say the most transparent thing to do would be to tell your wife every time that happens, hey, I saw this beautiful woman the other day. That's an example of the extreme when it comes to transparency. So like at what point do you think you can like withhold certain things? Yeah. You would. At what point do you withhold certain things for just like keeping the peace because it's just unnecessary? It's not worth talking about because it's really nothing. Like where does that line of transparency for the sake of transparency versus the extreme? Like where is that?
So I think that's like something that only your soul and your heart can tell you. Yes, you don't need to bring up every stupid little thing. You know what I mean? Because then you're just going to be annoying and obnoxious about just like, oh, hey, this. Now, if you and your spouse or your friend or whoever it is that you need to be transparent with, you guys have a really, really good friendship, bond, whatever it is, then those little things throughout the day, they could just be common conversation. Oh man, I saw this or I did this, and they can laugh with you instead of like being mad at you. Yeah. But that's only if both of you guys are at the highest level of understanding, trust, love, and appreciation for each other, where you're so comfortable that no matter, like, okay, like, you're my wife and you're sitting here and there's a good looking woman, I'm like, oh damn, she's got a nice booty. Right? Like, if her and I, my wife and I, have that good of a connection, we can look at her booty and laugh about it, and it ends right there. Right?
Because she knows your intention and you guys have that.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's lighthearted. It's not so serious. Right. But if there's insecurity, if there's no trust, if there is a broken bond, you cannot tell whoever, hey, look at that girl, you know, whatever.
It's like an open wound that's there.
Right, like, you're going to smack you in the face. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, disrespectful. But, you know, like, think about it. Like, with your best friends, what do you guys do? You make fun of each other.
Yeah.
Right? You talk smack. You know, you act silly. Right? And then, like, if that's the highest level of transparency. You know, and then if they know, like, all my guys, the closest guys to me, when we go out to eat, you know, and like, I share all my stories. The other day, just yesterday, I shared like a real personal story, you know, about my marriage, you know, like, that it was going down the tubes, and I did something just completely crazy that saved my marriage. And the guy looked at me like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I can't believe you opened up to me like that. And it's like, well, you're at that level of a friendship that I could open up to you. And I'm not afraid to tell you this, because I don't care how you look at me. You know what I mean? I'm telling you what I'm telling you because this is the truth. And the truth got me here. That's where I'm going to continue going. But, you know, you talked about shooting yourself in the foot. That was what happened to me a few weeks ago. I shot myself in the foot. You know what I mean? Like, I already knew that I had to make an adjustment, and I was making the adjustment, but I just felt like I had to say something. And when I did, I thought it was taken lightly, but then it turned out not to be. So then you realize, like, oh, okay, so there is gaps, there is holes, there's things need to work on. So in one way, I did shoot myself in the foot, but in another way, like, it exposed holes. Yeah. You know, it's like thinking you have really good takedowns, and then you go wrestle somebody, and then you do the takedown, you get stuffed or whatever, and you're like, oh, how did that happen? Well, that happened because you're missing steps. Your game is not as good as you thought it is. So on a deeper level, brother, like, I feel that when you're transparent and you're real, you can't go wrong. So if I'm going to be completely honest with you about whatever situation it is that we're talking about, and you decide to take it the wrong way and cause havoc, if you're my child, my wife, my business partner, whoever, then it almost means to me it wasn't meant to be. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I was courageous enough, honorable enough to tell you whatever it is. Say I'm about to tell you nothing that would affect you. Something about my past. Hey, when I was a kid, this happened to me. Or I did this. You choose now to change your views and to say, hey, you know, I don't want to be involved with this person. Then okay, then our paths are going to come to an end.
Yeah.
Or you can take it back. Oh my gosh, you did this. You still are this person? Wow, okay. Now I'm even closer to you. I look at you even higher. You know what I mean? Instead of downing you. You know, so all the time, man, I get people opening up to me, man, like really, really, bro. Like I can't tell you, at least once or twice a day, I get messages, sometimes even more, of different random people that I train, friends with. Hey, Yaniv, I love you, man. Hey, Yaniv, thank you for saving my life. Hey, Yaniv, thank you for being like a pillar in my life. Thank you for changing my life. And I think the only way and the only reason I even get these messages is because I'm so open and so sincere and so transparent that it almost unlocks their heart, and they can share with me their lives and be real. Because you know, how many people can you be real with these days? Everyone's judging you, and you know, we got this social media life where like you got filters, you got, you know, you're able to edit everything, and you know, like we're always like in general just posting the best of our lives. That everything is fake. Everything is the opposite of transparent.
Yeah, it almost gave us like another layer of like lies, right? Like if we're trying to have the people we meet perceive us in a certain way, right? It's the front you talked about earlier. You have the front when you're with, you know, somebody for the first time, a business partner, whatever. But there's now another layer of that, because sometimes before you even meet somebody, you have your social media, and then you get to pick and choose exactly how they see you beforehand, and it almost like just even deeper ingrains you to this persona that you're trying to present yourself as, which, you know, at the end of the day, if that is not who you are, or even remotely close, that becomes a cage. You feel like you have to be this person that you created, and that person is now not just a front that you put on in front of people. It exists online. It has another layer to it. It's like a living being that you are now a slave or beholden to, and you created it.
Right.
You know, it's like.
So it's funny, when I started the No Excuses program, the beginning of the year, when I decided to go for it, if you go back on my social media, you go back to a year ago, the only things I would ever really post is some jiu-jitsu stuff and some family stuff here and there, very random, like workout stuff. It was mainly like family, my wife and I, a little bit of jiu-jitsu. And I listened to this one guy, because I've always kept myself very humble. This guy said, he goes, listen, you have to show the world what you have. You have to show the world what you got, because the world is visual. People see and they want. So man, like for example, bro, like I've became a millionaire, okay? My mid-30s. Never shared that with anybody. I was always so hesitant to show people like all my hard work. You know, like I've been working since I'm 12 years old. I've been killing myself. You know, and like I was, you know, stay humble. A lot of people don't have anything. They're struggling. You don't need to show off. But the guy told me, he says, hey, he goes, why the fuck should anybody listen to you, right, when they don't know that you make good money? They don't know that you have a nice body, right? Like you have to show it. So I went and got myself a nice car. And it was like a whole conversation, to be honest. It was a whole conversation with my wife. I was like, do I want to expose, you know, like really what I have? And do I really want to show my body all the time? You know, like, and the answer was, well, fuck the haters. And the ultimate objective is to help others. Well, no one's ever going to look at somebody who's very humble and doesn't show anything and be like, hey, I want to be like him. Let's just say we know a guy who's shredded and has $5 million in the bank and has a great marriage, but he never posts about his marriage. He never posts about him, his work ethic, on him making money, his business. He never posts about his body. Are you going to hire this person as a life coach? Why would you? You don't know anything about him. There's nothing about him that says hire me. There's not, you know, like.
Yeah, you don't know. It's just nothing.
You don't know. So he's not transparent.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Right? He's not transparent. He's hiding what he is. So that was very hard for me, because I was always like, be humble, be humble, be humble. Don't show people that you have money. Don't show people that, you know, like you have a nice body, you know, like don't show people about your marriage. But then I realized, like, I got to post about my marriage all the time. Like every time my wife and I going out, like, I got to post. My kids, when we're eating family dinner, it's like, Dad, why do we have to post a selfie of us eating, you know? I said, to motivate others. I would like to see other families sit down like how I'm sitting down with my children and my wife. People don't do that anymore. I take pictures with my shirt off all the time to show other men. I'm about to be 44 years old. Show other men, look at this 44-year-old man. He's fucking shredded. You know, I'm driving around nice cars, living a great life, showing people on purpose. You can do it too, my friend. It's not going to be easy. Don't look at my, see, if you look at my book, I might be at chapter 25. You're at chapter 1. Don't compare, but just know that it's possible.
That's interesting. I feel like when we talk about transparency and truth, it's always in regards to like difficult things. Like you got to be truthful about the hard stuff and face these difficult truths. But if you think about it, truth isn't just about bad stuff. Like the truth also includes good things, the things that you might consider bragging or being boastful. So it's interesting that you put it in that light that you're being you're not being transparent by hiding certain things or whatever. You know, if you're only truthful, yeah, you're being deceitful to yourself even. But it's like if you're only truthful to yourself or those around you about the bad things, it's almost like it weighs itself against you. Like then you're only seeing the bad things about yourself, even if they're things that you're accepting and going through. If you don't also see with that like truthful look the positive sides, you're not really seeing yourself in transparency. You're not seeing the truth. You know, I think a lot of people ignore their own goods, or it's easy to like look past it because the truth that they focus on is the hard part, which is the bad stuff. You know,
but you know, like even when we talk about transparency, you know, like when I'm coaching people, it's like before you can make a change, you have to be transparent with yourself. So I got like one guy I train, you know, like he likes to smoke weed. He smokes all the time. And he does it all the time that he doesn't even realize he's addicted. So one day we hung out all day, and I was like, oh wow, doesn't just smoke, he's addicted. And then when I was transparent with him, got offended, like, I'm not addicted. You know, I have control, da-da-da. But your actions show otherwise. Okay? So the other day, we actually had a talk again. We brought it up. And he says, I didn't realize I am addicted. You know?
Yeah.
And that was huge because it took like a year to simmer in his brain to realize, for him to come to be honest with himself, because he always kept saying, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. And the people around him, okay, like, would never say anything. Which brings up the next part of transparency is like, if you're transparent, you're a true friend. So I'll give you an example. One of my really good friends has a really fucked up haircut. Right? I'm not going to throw his name out there.
I hope it's not me.
He has a really messed up haircut. And when I see him, I go, yo, like, you got to get a fucking haircut, bro. You look like out of control. You look like a maniac. And we laugh about it and this and that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm serious. So then I'll see our other friends. I'm like, hey, tell him something. Like, oh, he's fine. And I look him and I look it right them in the face. I said, just remember who's your only friend here. This is fucking serious what I'm saying. Your real friends will tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Yeah. Right? Because if you got a fucked up haircut, I'm just using the haircut at this moment. And then all your friends is kind of like, not really give a fuck. Like, oh, we accept him for who he is. Really? Why would you accept somebody for who they are when they have a downfall? Like if you're a weedhead, like saying, oh, I just accept them being a weedhead. Well, you don't really care about that person. If you did, you wouldn't want them to be a weedhead. You would bring that up to their attention. If your friend has a stain on his shirt, like, yo, or like, you know, your girlfriend, I'm going to use women. You know, I used this a few months ago with, you know, this girl that I'm close with. And I was like, she goes out and some of her friends dress like fucking whack as fuck. I'm like, bro, why don't you say something to them? She's like, oh, it's not my business. Like, of course it's your business. Of course it's your business. Of course it's your business to tell people like, yo, motherfucker, you look like shit. You got to fucking change. Yo, man, you smell. Go put on deodorant. Hey, man, go change that shirt. Don't look right on you. Makes you look fat. Makes you this. Makes you that. Like, because you care.
Yeah.
And you might come out. As a matter of fact, you will look like an asshole. God, this person, he's so like, why is he so judgmental? I'm not judgmental. I'm your best fucking friend. I'm the only motherfucker who's willing to tell you the truth. For all the other clowns around, you're like, ha ha ha. You know?
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about being transparent, man. It's not just about telling the truth about something you did, or about something that's bothering me about you, or something about my past. It's in every part of your life.
Yeah.
It's literally in every part of your life. And I feel like if we all would be transparent with each other, you would see so much less. Hold on, let me fix what I'm about to say. If we're all be transparent with each other, and the person you're transparent with has a growth mindset, you would see very little divorce. You would see very little breakups. You would see very little fights. You would see very little people switching companies, switching gyms, switching whatever. You know, like sometimes I'll have people leave. I have no idea what they left. Zero clue. You know? Maybe if they were transparent, we could have had a one-on-one conversation and ironed out the issue in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you just keep everything to yourself or whatever, then it can't be fixed.
Yeah, something I've noticed is like when it comes to telling truth to other people, it's not for you. And I think that's part of why it makes it so difficult. Like you don't get a benefit or a satisfaction from telling someone else a difficult truth. It's for them. But and I've experienced this firsthand. There's been moments where I've said a difficult truth to somebody and they reacted as most people would when you tell someone a difficult truth. Like they're against it. And I put it to the side. And then a year later, this person tells me that, they went through some changes, they went through some growth. And the thing that I said to them the year before came back and it helped them to take a direction in this growth that they were trying to go in. And, that kind of helped me realize that the truth that you tell people is not for you, it's for them. It's like a seed you give them. Like if you meet a really shitty person, a person who's just in a bad point in their life, and you see everybody just accepts that this is just who they are, this is what it is. But you just happen to tell them, hey, look, this is what's going on in your life. You might be okay with it, they might be okay with it, but this is what it is. They could remember that years later, like when they're in a better place. It's like a seed that's there for them to take later. Like they don't forget it. And and even if you distance yourself from them because, that truth is too difficult, it's a gift that you gave them. And it's never really going to benefit you. And so it's almost like a service you can do to other people that you may never see the benefit from or even get thanks for, especially if it's like embarrassing things. Like people don't like to talk about their growth sometimes too, because it is an admittance of the fault that they were before. Like somebody will grow and then pretend that they were never the person that was on level 1,
Right.
But, you can't be a black belt without having been a white belt. So I feel like it's another small thing that people like to latch onto as a reason either not to be truthful or to commit to presenting themselves in the best way, or to lie about the truth of the bad parts or the parts of the growing process.
Like when I see and I meet people and I have conversations with people that are transparent, if I have a one-on-one conversations with them and they're just 100% real, they don't front, they just like put their heart out. Like, I think that's such a beautiful thing. I think it's so beautiful. I think it's so like powerful. Like one day, like I was having a conversation with somebody and they started crying. They said to me like, "Oh, I don't want you, crying. You shouldn't be crying." That's the most beautiful. This is the most beautiful part of ever seen of you, you know, because you're real now. You're finally being real. You're finally being transparent. Where all the time, you know, it's like tough guy, tough girl, you know, like, oh man, we don't need to be like that. Be real. Be real, my friends. Be real. Be truthful. Be honest. You know, and understand that when you will be this way, you will ruffle some feathers, for sure. Um, but just remember, if those people belong in your life, they'll stay. If they don't belong, then they're gonna go. And maybe they didn't go because you didn't say anything now, but sooner or later they'll go anyway. You know what I mean? Like if you say something to them and they take it the wrong way and they go, they were gonna go anyways. If you don't say anything, they'll probably would have gone anyways in a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Right. You know, so this is how I feel about it, man. Like it's something, I think transparency is a beautiful thing. And one time I was talking to somebody and said, why did you have to say that to me? I felt what I feel. You know? And oh well, now my head ain't right. You know, ever since you told me, I said, well, go to work. Go to work. Call me out on anything that's wrong with me. And I'm gonna go to work on it. I'm gonna go to work on it because I understand I'm not perfect. And I understand that with everything that I know, there's still so much that I don't know. You know? And then I might know everything about this, how to handle this person, but dealing with you differently. And I say that all the time because, like, I have 5 kids. They're all different. Different attitudes, different energy levels, different vibration, different mindsets. They all grow up in the same house. They all have the same 2 parents. They all go to the same school. Why are they all so different? You know? So when I deal with people, you know, my kids, this one's sad, this one's happy, this one's angry, this one's this. Like, well, you need to be transparent so I can help you. So we can go through this together. You know? And the people who are transparent, and I'll use my own family. One time, my oldest son, you know, he was going through a really hard time. And, like, you don't tell me the truth, A, B, C is going to happen. You need to come out clean. Broke down, cried, came out clean. When I tell you, Tarun, this motherfucker, we came up with a plan together, he just skyrocketed. He skyrocketed every part of his life. But he wouldn't have never told me the truth. I can't even tell you he would even be here today. That's how fucked up mindset was. You understand? So all the listeners, guys, talk about what's hurting you. Talk about whatever it is that's going on in your life. Put it on the table. Put it on the table. And people tell me, like, should I go to counseling? Should I do this? Should I do that? Like, you know what I feel like you don't need counseling? I feel like you need friends. Real friends. Right? Like somebody where I can sit with you and tell you whatever it is that's going on and start crying because I'm so hurt. And instead of you bashing me and never wanting to talk to me, you putting your arm around me, giving me a kiss on the forehead, say, Yaniv, be all right, man. Everything's going to be all right. And you know, when you vent, you release all that toxic energy. I had somebody who was going through a hard time. I said, hey, you need to talk to somebody about this. Doesn't have to be me. But you have to have a friend, somebody you can speak to. You know, and I think it's way more powerful than just speaking to some counselor. Because the counselor, not that they're bad or anything like that, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, is that you can't be completely open with them. You don't know them like that. So it's like to share your deepest hurt, share your whatever's on your mind. You know, now that we're talking about like depression and things like that, very hard.
Well, I mean, some people prefer it because it's almost like there's the consequences, or the reason they're scared of telling their truth to another person is because of the judgment, right? But if you tell it to a stranger that doesn't know you, is not a part of your life,
that's true too.
You know, it's easier for them because the consequences that they were scared of when it came to telling the truth is not really so much there.
But think about this. If I'm your real friend, you tell me something that went on in your life, I might not be happy with you. I might be happy with what you did, but I'll still be here for you. Might not be proud of what you did, but I'll still be here for you. You know what I mean? I'll still be by your side because you're my child, you're my spouse, you're my friend, you're whatever, my brother, my sister, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I think just so many people are just not really truthful or loyal and all the other stuff that when you do tell them.
Yeah, you know, you could say that when it comes to being truthful, the consequences are whatever you're scared of. But the other side is there's benefits to being truthful that are also consequence of being truthful. And so when you do see
like
people,
one, like sleeping good at night.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, when you're talking to, or even just an improved relationship. So
what about not forgetting your lies?
That too, exactly. And you don't get that if you're talking to a person that's not involved in your life. Yeah, you can get your truth out on the table, and it'll benefit you. But the real gains from being truthful is probably has more to do with your relationships with everybody. And just like you can talk to a therapist or a counselor easier because there's no consequence or fear of them judging you, there's also nothing to gain in terms of your relationship with them because they're an impartial third person that's not a part of your life. You know?
Yeah, man.
No risk, no reward.
Being real, being transparent has a lot of benefits, but it definitely comes with, like when you go through like an obstacle course, like where they hit you with the pads and all that shit. Like that's basically what it is. Like you're gonna get bumps and bruises, but when you come out to the other side of the obstacle, you're like, yeah, I did it. And like you just feel free. You feel good that where you're at in your life. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Man, guys, I think this was an unbelievable podcast today.
For sure.
You're a great host,
Thank
co-host.
You. Thank you.
And looking forward, guys, to doing more of these. Yeah. All right, guys. Make sure, guys, you subscribe, like, share, follow me on Instagram. And guys, let's just keep pushing. And remember, if you need any help on leveling up in your life, mentally, physically, emotionally, hop on my No Excuses program. If you live here in Broward County, interested in training jiu-jitsu, come train with us. You won't regret it.
Usa.